That's not sugar-coated. You're simply not ready. And deep down, you've known that for a while. This isn't some accusation. It's a quiet truth you've carried, sometimes hidden, even from yourself. That hollow ache you can't explain, lingering even in good moments, isn't just baseless anxiety. It's more like a signal, a whisper that something fundamental is off. It's as if the universe is methodically preparing you, breaking you down before thrusting you into something new. Ever noticed how, right before your life should turn a corner, everything seems to unravel at once? You lose friends, your health gives out, doors slam shut just as you reach for them, the drive to keep going fades, and you get lost in the sense that you're regressing. But really, you're being emptied. Everything extraneous is falling away, piece by piece. It's not some cosmic punishment. It's a sad, necessary purification. Most people never grasp this. Gifts don't arrive for those still clinging to who they used to be. It isn't about working harder or hoping more. It's about a slow, painful metamorphosis, one you can't shortcut or pretend your way through. Wanting isn't enough. If you want to hold on to something lasting, you need to become the person who can bear its weight. Carl Jung saw this in the way the unconscious grows restless. When real change finally comes, when it's long overdue, it won't wait for your permission. Suddenly, you're thrown into turmoil, because chaos is the language your soul uses to rewrite its story. The breakup you didn't see coming, the job you lost when you could least afford it, the betrayal that still stings. They're sharp, painful moments of reckoning, tearing away what's no longer meant for you, whether you're ready or not. They tore away everything that was decayed, that no longer had a place, and you saw only unfairness in it. But the truth is, the world isn't what stands in your way. No grand system, no unseen forces. The hardest barrier is the part of you still tethered to what's familiar, the one wishing for change, but clinging tightly to comfort, longing for something new, without letting the old finally slip away. Yes, something in you has to end. There's no gentler way to put it. For anything different to emerge, something within must fade out, quietly or with a crash, that stubborn self. The ego that once kept you safe has turned into a fortress, locking you in. It doesn't crave genuine transformation. It wants small tweaks that don't ask much in return. It craves certainty, even if that means you remain untouched, unmoved, unseen in your own life. So when transformation comes knocking, the ego fights, digging in its heels. It doesn't want to yield. That's when the aching begins. But here's the bitter truth: the ache isn't your enemy. It's the signal, painful and persistent. It only hurts this much because you're brushing up against your old limits. And every crossing, every step into new ground, exacts its toll. Did you really think you could step forward and keep everything as it was? The silence pressing around you, the hollowness, it's not being forsaken. It's the in-between, the haunted space after what was and before what could be. It's the charred field where something else might grow, eventually, if you can wait in the ashes a while longer. In that ground, whatever you plant can still grow roots, maybe even stronger ones, but only if you're mindful about what you sow. This in-between place, where you're no longer who you were, and not yet who you might become, feels almost unbearably tender. Here, you're left to wonder if you'll end up trapped in old loops, or manage to step into something unfamiliar and new. Take a hard look within which cycles keep repeating themselves. Which anxieties do you keep nurturing, unable to let go? What's clamped so tightly in your grasp that you'd rather ache than release it? These are the silent questions the world seems to whisper when something is about to shift. But if you can't answer honestly, the things you long for might always hang just out of reach. Not out of punishment, but because you wouldn't be able to hold onto them, not really. Life hands you not just what you asked for, but what you've managed to become, built up from every fear faced and every part of yourself you've managed to confront. The challenges aren't there to wound you, they're shaping you. Every heartbreak was a warning to protect yourself better. Every letdown was a crossroads, quietly waiting for you to choose a wiser pain or braver hope. Each loss served as a signal nothing outside of us stays the same, and what truly counts is what you nurture within yourself. Even in those moments when it felt like the universe was turning a blind eye, it was actually taking note, witnessing if you acted from old pain or new awareness, acted out of fear or honesty, from resentment or calm. That's the true challenge, not your actions when life goes smoothly, but your choices when everything seems stacked against you. That's when your core self shows its face. And if that self is real, it leads to opportunities you never saw coming. The universe doesn't hand out rewards to the cleverest, the toughest, or the most agreeable. It flows toward those who are aligned, who dare to live their truth quietly, regardless of whether anyone sees. Why? Because deep change happens quietly. It doesn't crave recognition or approval. It forms in silence, solitude, and sacrifice. And when it finally surfaces, it needs no explanation. It simply exists. So if you're stuck, if nothing feels clear, if obstacles fill your path, hold steady. Don't run from it. Don't mask it. Don't misjudge the moment. Look beneath the surface. You may be right in the heart of the shift you once asked for, but haven't yet shown you're ready to embrace it. That's the real test. How do you respond when the universe goes quiet? How do you navigate when the path isn't marked? What do you choose when there's no one around to cheer you on? There are countless people longing for transformation, but few are ready to change from within. Many crave a fresh start, but hesitate to close the old chapters. They seek extraordinary results, but hold tight to what is familiar. It doesn't work that way. True transformation takes root when you stop turning outward for answers that only grow from within. When you prioritize inner peace over outward recognition. When you see that your experiences aren't personal setbacks, but shared human challenges. Everyone faces this refining process, yet many abandon it before it's complete. Do you have the courage to remain, letting the old layers of ego fall away so something deeper and truer can rise in their place? Because if you do, the universe responds. At that point, you won't need to chase change. It finds you, a natural outgrowth of who you've become. And here's the paradox: when you're no longer attached to outcomes, that's when real change arrives. Because you become someone who embraces the journey instead of clinging to results. This is what the universe has been waiting for all along. You become someone who isn't tied to outcomes anymore. You linger in the motion, the grind itself. Maybe that's what the universe was waiting for all along, though it never said so. You're not being punished, but shaped. Pieces of yourself smooth sharp in anticipation of some test. Will you take it? After all you've endured, let's pull back the curtain on a question most people never want to ask. Is this really a test? Or is something in you just being exposed under the glare? The world loves to push from every direction, and sometimes it feels like a demolition. But in truth, the strain is just uncovering what was there, simmering under the surface. Things you maybe hoped would never come into the light. It's not transformation exactly, it's exposure. And the things that emerge aren't always gentle old insecurities. The ache for validation, emotional reliance, pride pretending to be surety, fear passing itself off as caution. Those shadows were always with you. Pressure just strips away the camouflage. The cracks you notice now, they aren't created by this moment. They were always part of your foundation. Now, revealed and undeniable. You can't fool yourself with tidy sayings about everything happening for a reason. You're forced to confront the pieces or to settle for empty platitudes, pretending understanding that never quite settles in your chest. Here's a paraphrased version of your text. Now comes a subtle but truly transformative shift. What you experience isn't some test of your resilience, but a way to clear your perspective. It's not about becoming tougher, it's about gaining sharper insight. Take a look at the routines you follow without thinking, the beliefs about yourself you've carried since you were young, the old narratives you keep spinning to avoid the uncomfortable truth that you can't keep living as you always have. This is where your shadow appears. The aspects of yourself you've tucked away to please others. The parts you repressed just to feel accepted. The thoughts you kept quiet so you could belong. Jung pointed out that enlightenment doesn't come from imagining radiant beings, but from bringing your own darkness into the light. That's what this journey asks of you. These challenges are like flashlights, shining into places you've never dared to look. Ever wonder why so many people resist change, even when their whole life is pushing them toward it? Because staying shattered in what's familiar feels safer than becoming whole in uncharted territory. The ego holds tight to pain, simply because it's reliable, but genuine change doesn't start where everything is known and predictable. It begins in the moment you finally surrender. Letting go isn't the same as giving up. It's an act of trust. It's saying to life, I can't control this, but I'll trust that it has meaning. And trust, in this sense, isn't blind faith. It's a kind of certainty that settles in when you look back and see that everything you let go of was exactly what you were meant to leave behind. Every heartbreak, every stumble, every quiet stretch was actually setting up a meeting with a side of yourself you hadn't discovered yet. Real awakening isn't some grand, shimmering revelation. It often shows up on an ordinary weekday, maybe while you're sobbing alone in your car, suddenly realizing you can't pretend anymore that nothing is stirring inside. It's harsh, it's unfiltered, but it's honest. And honesty is what actually changes you. Everything else is just spiritual theater. The universe isn't here for your amusement. It's here to wake you up. It keeps reminding you again and again that everything you're searching for is already buried inside, locked away beneath layers of fear, ego, the urge to control things, and the ways you fool yourself. Want to create a new life? That's fine. But be honest. The cost is your current self. You can't bring that along, not because it's flawed, but because it's not whole. That version of you was shaped by just getting by, not by living in authenticity. That's really the next step in this journey. Existing is not the same as living. The ego clings to existence. The soul actually lives. If you keep making choices just to dodge discomfort, keep everyone happy, or stay in control, you're just getting by. But when you start acting from your own truth, with no promises, no guaranteed outcomes, just to be real with yourself, that's when living really starts. When challenges pop up, the most powerful thing isn't fighting or toughing it out. It's listening. Each challenge comes with a message, though it's never spelled out. Instead, you'll find it hidden in what hurts, in whatever gets under your skin or scares you the most. Those are the things begging for your attention. A problem isn't pain itself. It's not knowing how to interpret it. If you keep seeing every struggle as unfair, you'll miss what it's trying to teach you. This isn't about punishment. You're being nudged to remember who you truly are beneath all the roles you play. What's wanted isn't strength for its own sake, but honesty, because true power comes from being genuine. Real change doesn't mean forcing yourself into a new shape. It's letting the real you step forward, the one that's always been there under everything you've been taught. The question is, will you let that version of yourself come out? That's what really decides if you're ready for what you've been asking for. Here's a paraphrased version of your text. Don't tie your identity to what happens to you, but instead to how you react. When your reaction comes from a place of honesty, rather than fear, things shift. The world around you acts as a reflection. That's when you stop lying to yourself and see things clearly. The question is, are you ready to continue? Because this is where the real journey begins. Let's dig into a concept that might make you uneasy, something that rattles your sense of comfort, and exposes how you might use self-deception as both a shield and a form of self-sabotage. What if the obstacle isn't some external force, but actually you? Not because you're afraid to fail, but because you're scared of what might happen if you succeed. It seems backward, but sometimes the real fear isn't about falling short. It's about standing out, because shining brings responsibility, and when you finally get what you've been asking for, you lose the security of your old excuses. You have to step up. This is where your mind really kicks in, cranking out rationalizations and convincing stories that make it feel like there's progress, when really you're just going in circles. Recognize that? The non-stop activity, endless planning and learning, but somehow you're not actually getting closer to what you truly desire. It's the comfortable rut of never-ending preparation, telling yourself, I'm not quite ready yet. All the while, the illusion of movement keeps you stuck in place. It's that loop of endless preparation, the shadow of, I'm just not ready yet. And honestly, you may never be ready if you're waiting for some certainty before stepping into the unknown. Readiness doesn't bloom in the safety of the ledge. It flickers to life after you've already stepped off. The mind is meant to shield you, but in its vigilance, it keeps you frozen, mistaking comfort for true security. The shelter it offers can feel more like a prison, familiarity anchoring you in place. So, you find yourself whispering, better the devil I know. Life stands quietly at the sidelines, patient as you cling to what's safe, unreachable until you finally loosen your grip. There's a quiet ache to this truth. Change inside you doesn't come from wishing. It's carved out by what you actually do, and more painfully, by what you're willing to leave behind. There's a sorrow in realizing you can't drag your old self into a new story. You can't long for a different existence yet refuse to shift your part in it. More often, people wish things would transform while they remain the same. That's the trickiest form of self-betrayal. You convince yourself you're moving forward, yet your baggage, old beliefs, stubborn habits, the craving to control every outcome, the need for the familiar, keeps you tied to everything you wish to escape. What do you think happens when you drag those old patterns with you into the future? You end up reliving the past, but in new situations, surrounded by different people, armed with fresh excuses, while the core dynamic stays unchanged. Let's consider these repeating loops, not dates on a calendar, but the cycles in your own life that seem to run on autopilot. It's as if you repeatedly land in the same toxic relationship, face the same arguments, or reach that identical breaking point. Why does this keep happening? It's because the lesson wasn't absorbed. Instead of wondering, why is this happening to me? Maybe the real question is, why is this happening again? If you keep responding the same way, life keeps serving up the same test. Things don't shift on a schedule, they shift with self-awareness. Without that insight, you're stuck on repeat. But the first moment you become conscious, however small that spark, you realize you can't keep going as you were. That's the real turning point. There's no way back to how things were. That awakening can be painful, unsettling, and it can make you question everything you thought you knew. Still, once you're awake, you can never fully go back to sleep. Too much has changed inside. Even when you try to fall back into your old habits, they never quite fit the way they used to. You're different now. It's a haunting thing, awakening. No one bothers to mention that the cost is an endless unease, a gnawing craving for honest reality, and a growing revulsion to anything reeking of deception, especially from your own lips. But this goes even further. There's the mourning of your old self. To cross the threshold into whoever you're supposed to become, you have to watch your former self wither and die. This isn't just about breaking habits. You're forced to dismantle the image you painstakingly built just to survive, to be accepted, to avoid being left alone in the dark. That persona? You'll have to bury it. You'll see, with a cold clarity, that all the things you once defended, sometimes desperately, were little more than shields against raw exposure. The toughness you displayed was nothing but a thin veneer over deep tremors of fear. That realization? It stings. Looking back, you recognize the years lost, imprisoned by a fraudulent self. Yet that pain is a bitter cure. The more you stare down your old illusions, the more you hollow out space for what's real. And in that exposed, unguarded void, some strange force begins to stir, shifting everything. It's not because you've reached some flawless version of yourself, far from it. It's because, at last, you've let yourself be seen as you truly are, fallible, open, a little raw, but sincere. You're finally growing from your real core, not a carefully crafted shell. And when you arrive at this place, a strange emptiness seeps in. You no longer scavenge for reassurance. You stop clinging to promises that things will turn out all right. You sense it dimly, but the reassurance isn't absolute. And you walk on anyway, with no safety net. You become someone who keeps going without needing certainty. Someone who, even in doubt, doesn't hush their own instincts or delay their truth. No matter how much the dark ahead frightens them, you can't see more than the next shaky step. But you move, because that's all you have, that shift. Leaving behind the search for sure answers, and instead, learning to exist in the shape of absence, not as resignation but as some quiet, bittersweet wisdom, might be the real transformation. For the one who lets go doesn't quit. They bend, they yield, they're reformed in the silence that follows. When that happens, there's a clarity, but not the comfort of certainty. Life no longer mirrors what you've wished for or feared. It simply echoes whatever half-hopeful, half-hollow frequency you carry now. Coherence, if it ever comes, comes not from confidence, but from that alignment of longing and loss, words and actions trembling together in the same uncertain pulse. So you stand here, on the threshold, staring at the truest, maybe loneliest, version of yourself, and the question hanging in the gray air is no longer whether you will make it. The real ache is, will you let the older, safer self slip away, when becoming who you might be means not knowing, and no one can walk. Now that you're standing on the brink of your own inner abyss, there's really only one choice left: take the leap, or keep stacking up rationalizations dressed as logic. Honestly, the toughest part isn't actually making the change. The real challenge is quitting the habit of justifying why you haven't done it yet. The hardest part is coming to terms with the fact that life shifts not through intentions, but through action, and the right time to choose isn't somewhere off in the future. Not when you imagine you'll be stronger, better prepared, or less damaged. The right time is now. Now is the only instant you're truly unbound. But don't misunderstand, this isn't about reckless jumps or hollow bursts of motivation. It's about that quiet moment inside, when everything goes still, and, without a sound, you sense enough. Enough pleading for approval, enough clinging to familiar pain, enough wishing to change the world while avoiding your own darkness, enough stalling your truth. This enough isn't loud. It's something you feel in your bones. When it arrives, you can't mistake it. It's as if every part of you lines up, and you simply don't need more justifications. You take the step, and it's right there. Midway through that step, that you discover what was hidden, and clarity finally breaks through. That understanding comes after the choice, not before, so quit searching for a sign. You are the sign. When you decide not to dwell on the past, when you answer life not with desperation but with resolve, Because ultimately, the universe doesn't care about what you say. It pays attention to how you move, and then comes the unexpected ending what you're hoping for. It's already real somewhere. Out there in some version of events, you made different choices, resisted old habits, stopped waiting for validation, and never bargained away who you are. That you is alive now. Want to be her? Start acting, breathing, choosing, and thinking like her. The real trick isn't to force what comes next. It's to turn into the person who makes it unavoidable. So go after it. Not because you're trapped, not because you're scared, not to win anyone's approval. Do it for the part of yourself that knows survival isn't what you're here for. You're here to set yourself on fire with your own truth. The part of you that doesn't owe anyone an explanation. The part that's been awake, quietly urging you to rise. So here's my challenge if you've read this far, and something inside you stirred. Finish it off with a line of your sink down into the comments and type, I am ready to become who I've always been. Do it not to prove anything, but to whisper to yourself, a twisted little reminder in your own voice, that transformation has already begun clawing its way through you. Movement is already happening, whether you wanted it or not. And if this video has cut into you, if it's unsettled even a single belief, go ahead and subscribe. Not to trail after someone, but to plummet further into the shadows of your own depths. We aren't here to feed your pride. We're here so you can watch it rot away. Now I'll leave you, not with a gentle goodbye, but with a warning meant to linger in the back of your mind like an echo in the dark. The next time your world starts to unravel, don't scramble for the exits. Just watch, just breathe, just think. The end you fear might actually be the first page of the you who's been buried beneath the skin. I'll see you on the far side. The place where masks are gone, where you don't run, don't stall, don't pretend. You simply exist. You simply carve your own story. And until we meet again, the universe is already watching, already hungry for what comes next.